She heard the glass hit the floor before she felt him grab her. 1 second, Mira was standing at the rooftop bar with champagne in her hand, and the city stretched out below her like a promise. The next, Victor's fingers had closed around her wrist so hard she felt the bones compress, and the glass was gone, somewhere on the floor in pieces, and he was pulling her backward through the crowd before anyone around them had time to process what they were seeing. His other hand found her hair. He twisted it, yanked until her neck bent back at an angle that stole her breath completely. The rooftop music kept playing. The city lights smeared above her into something that didn't make sense. 42 floors below, cars moved like toys along streets that suddenly felt like another world entirely. 4 months. Victor's breath was against her ear. Hot and close and furious. 4 months I spent looking for you, Mira. 4 months. She tried to pull forward. His grip tightened. Around them, at least 60 people stood with drinks in their hands. Some turned their backs, others raised their phones. Not one person stepped forward, not one voice called out. The same silence that had kept her inside that apartment for 2 years, the silence she had run 4 months ago to escape, was wrapping itself around her again right here in the middle of a crowd. Victor dragged her toward the glass railing. Her stomach dropped the moment she understood where he was taking her. The railing, the edge, the 42 floors of open air between the rooftop and the street below. Please. The word came out of her before she could stop it, small and broken and hating itself immediately. Victor, please. Shut up. He shoved her against the metal railing and the edge bit into her lower back like a blade. You made me look weak. Do you know what people have been saying about me? You embarrassed me in front of everyone I know. If you are already hooked, good. Because this story is about to go places you are not ready for. Hit that subscribe button right now and join the Afro-Korean Chronicles family. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever been in a room full of people and felt completely alone? We are going for 10,000 likes on this one, and every single one counts. Now, back to Mira. A man set his drink down at the bar. Not quickly, not dramatically. He set it down the way someone sets something down when they have already made a decision and the only thing left is to carry it out. He was tall, he wore a charcoal suit that cost more than most people's rent. When he reached up and unbuttoned his jacket with one hand, something at his hip caught the rooftop light for just a moment. Victor's fingers loosened in her hair, not much, just enough that Mira felt it. And the man walked toward them and the crowd parted without him asking it to. His face was the kind of face that could disappear in a room if he chose to let it. Sharp jaw, dark eyes, features that gave nothing away, but he was not choosing to disappear right now. He stopped 3 feet from Victor and looked at him the way a person looks at something they have already calculated the full cost of. Step away from her. His voice did not rise. It did not need to. Victor's entire body went rigid. This is none of your business, Luca. Luca. Mira had never heard the name before in her life, but Victor said it the way a person says the name of something they are genuinely afraid of. Like a curse, like a confession, like both at the same time. Let her go. The man Luca moved 1 step closer, and Mira saw what had caught the light. A holster, half visible beneath the open jacket, not hidden, shown deliberately. Victor released her so suddenly that she stumbled, catching herself against the railing with both hands. He stepped back with his palms raised and a smile on his face that was shaking at the corners. Hey! He laughed the laugh of someone performing calm they do not feel. This is a misunderstanding. She's my girlfriend, man. We were just talking. She is not your girlfriend. Luca positioned himself between them and Mira suddenly could not see Victor anymore, only this stranger's back. Only the breadth of his shoulders standing between her and everything she had been running from. She is under my protection. Leave this rooftop. Now. Victor's footsteps moved fast. She heard him pushing through the crowd. Heard the elevator arrive. Heard it leave. The music kept playing. People went back to their conversations. Somewhere nearby, someone laughed at something that had nothing to do with any of this. Mira's legs were shaking so badly she was not sure they would hold her. The man turned around. His eyes were calm, completely, unreadably calm. At the eyes of someone who has seen worse things than this and processed them before most people finish their morning coffee. You're safe, he said, for now. Her mouth was dry. How do you know my name? Oh my. She had not told him her name. She had not said a single word to him. He reached into his jacket, slowly, letting her see the movement the whole time. He produced a business card. Black paper, expensive, no company name anywhere on it. Just a number pressed into the card in silver ink. When you're ready to understand what happened tonight, call that number. He held it out to her. Then he turned and walked into the crowd and disappeared like he had never been there at all. Her friend Anna found her 10 minutes later. Mira was still standing by the railing, still holding the card with both hands. Anna took one look at her face and stopped mid-sentence. What happened? I saw Victor near the entrance, and then I couldn't find you, and... A man. Mira's voice came out strange, distant. He stopped Victor, called him by name. She held up the card. Do you know who Luca Morrow is? Anna went pale. Actually pale, the color draining out of her face in a way Mira had never seen happen to her before. Where did you see him? Here. Just now. He was... Anna, what's wrong? Anna pulled her away from the railing, away from the crowd, into the corner where the speakers were farthest away, and the music was just barely low enough for words to matter. Luca Morrow runs private security. She said it quietly and carefully. Like the words themselves had edges. Not celebrity bodyguards, not corporate protection. He works for people who cannot go to the police. People involved in situations that do not have paperwork. Mira's stomach turned over. What kind of situations? The kind where if you make the wrong enemy, you do not just lose your job, you disappear. Anna gripped her arm. When Luca Morrow gives someone a warning, Mira, it is not a warning. It is a countdown. If he told Victor to leave you alone tonight, Victor will leave you alone. But she looked genuinely frightened now. Why does he know your name? Mira went home and did not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt Victor's hand in her hair, the railing against her back, the city below her feet. But underneath that, pressing harder, was the weight of something else. The certainty in Luca's voice when he said, "Under my protection." Like it was already decided. Like she had already agreed to something without being in the room when the agreement was made. Her phone rang at 7 in the morning, unknown number. She stared at it for 4 full rings before she answered. Miss Reeves. His voice was exactly as she remembered it. Controlled. Level. The kind of voice that makes everything sound like it will be fine, even when the thing being said is not fine at all. This is Luca Morrow. We need to speak about Victor Hale. She sat up. He's gone. You handled it. Victor owes a significant debt to people in the Port District. Loan operators who do not accept late payments and do not negotiate. 3 months ago, when he ran out of options, he made them an offer. Mira's hand tightened around the phone. What kind of offer? You. The word sat in the air between them like something dropped from a height. What? He gave them your full information. Your address, your daily schedule, your sister's name. He traded you as collateral, Miss Reeves. If he could not produce the money, they would produce you instead. The room moved. Yet Mira sat down on the edge of her bed and pressed her free hand over her mouth. That's... He wouldn't. I have the contract. Would you like me to read it to you? No. The word came out barely above a breath. No. Why are you telling me this? Why would you care? Because yesterday afternoon I purchased that contract. You are now under my protection rather than their collection. A car will arrive at your building in 30 minutes. Pack what matters. You will not be returning. She was on her feet immediately. I am not going anywhere with you. I do not know you. Look at your front door. The lock. She walked to the door with the phone still at her ear. The lock looked fine. Completely normal. Except for the scratches around the keyhole. Fresh ones. Deep ones. The kind that come from a key that was copied and used recently. Oh God. They were inside your apartment last night while you were at the party. Victor gave them access. Luca's voice dropped slightly. Not softer exactly, but careful. You are not safe here. You are not safe anywhere connected to Victor Hale, but I can change that. Let me change that. The car that arrived was a black SUV with tinted windows. The driver introduced himself as Thomas. He was older, straight-backed, with the posture of someone who had spent years being paid to stay alert. He did not ask questions. He took her single bag and opened the door and drove without explaining anything. For 40 minutes, Mira watched the city change outside the window. Neighborhoods she recognized disappeared. Buildings got taller. Streets got quieter, more expensive. The kind of clean that costs money to maintain. They pulled into an underground garage beneath a building called Meridian Tower. Thomas used a key card on the private elevator and stepped aside when the penthouse door opened. Mr. Morrow will arrive this evening. Make yourself at home. Mira stepped inside and stood completely still for a moment. At floor-to-ceiling windows on every wall, a city stretched out below her in every direction. Furniture that looked like it had been selected by someone who understood both beauty and function. A kitchen that had never had anything messy happen in it. The entire square footage of her apartment could have fit inside the living room with space left over. She found clothes in the bedroom closet, her size, her style exactly. Not a guess, not close. Her actual style, the way she dressed when she was not trying to be someone Victor approved of. In the bathroom, her preferred shampoo, the specific brand she ordered online because no local store carried it. On the nightstand, a note written in precise slanted handwriting. No one knows you are here. No one will find you. Beside it, a phone with one contact saved. LM Mira sat on the bed and looked at the note for a long time. He had been watching her. For how long? Weeks. As long enough to know what she put in her hair. Long enough to know how she dressed when she felt like herself. Long enough to know things she had never told anyone, not even Anna. She should leave. She should pick up her bag, walk to the elevator, go somewhere, anywhere. But Victor knew her sister's address. He knew her parents' house in the Midlands. He knew every friend she had introduced him to during those 2 years she had spent learning how to make herself smaller so he would not get angry. And now there were people in the Port District who had a contract with her name on it. She did not leave. Luca arrived at 6:30 that evening. No knock, just the sound of the lock disengaging, and then he was inside. Same suit or an identical one. Same expression, same eyes that gave nothing away, and somehow still managed to see everything. I trust the apartment is acceptable. Stop calling me Miss Reeves. Mira stood up. You know what shampoo I use. You can use my name. Something that might have been the beginning of a smile crossed his face. It disappeared quickly. Mira then. We need to establish the terms. I am not agreeing to anything until you tell me everything. All of it. He set his briefcase on the counter, opened it, removed a folder, handed it to her without any introduction. Mira opened it, and her hands started shaking before she reached the bottom of the first page. Her full name, national insurance number, work address. Her sister's name, Clara's name, was in there. Her parents' address. The cafe where she worked from her laptop every Thursday morning. Her running route through the park near the canal. And at the bottom, in Victor's handwriting, a section titled Compensation Terms. She closed the folder before she finished reading it. They were planning to take you next week, Luca said. Wednesday morning. Your running route passes through a stretch near the canal with no working cameras. They intended to make it appear random. Mira set the folder on the counter with careful hands. Why would he do this? We were together for 2 years. I loved him. Because men like Victor do not see women as people. Luca took the folder back and closed it. They see them as resources. And because he believed he could get away with it, he did not account for me. So what am I now? The question came out with more edge than she intended. You bought a contract. What does that make me? It makes you protected. He moved to the window and looked at the city below. There is a difference between those two things, even if it does not feel like one right now. What stops them from coming after me anyway? Me. He said it without elaborating. The rules are simple. No contact with anyone from your previous life until this is resolved. Not Anna, not Clara, no one Victor could monitor. You do not leave this building without Thomas or another escort. I approve. You tell me every place you go, every person you speak to. Show complete transparency. In return, no one touches you, no one finds you. And Victor does not get another opportunity. So I am a prisoner. You are alive. He turned from the window and looked at her directly. Victor's version of this ended very differently for you. You do not know anything about me, what I can handle, what I have already handled. You have a scar, he said. Here. He gestured to his own collarbone. The ER nurse who treated you wrote accidental fall in your file because that is what you told her. She did not believe you, but she could not prove otherwise. The air left Mira's lungs. I have been monitoring the situation for 6 weeks, since Victor first approached the Port District operators, since your name first appeared in a conversation that had nothing to do with you and everything to do with his debt. He held her gaze. That does not happen again. Not while I am involved. He reached toward her slowly, giving her time to step back. Yakin held his hand near her collarbone without touching it, just acknowledging, just witnessing. That does not happen again. Mira should have run. Every rational part of her understood that. But a different part of her, the part that had spent 2 years being invisible to the person who was supposed to see her, registered something it had not felt in a very long time. Someone was looking at her, actually looking. "What if I want to leave?" she said it quietly. "What if I decide this is not the arrangement I want?" "Then you leave." He dropped his hand. "But you will not be safe. Not today, not next week. Eventually Victor will find you, or they will, or someone else will." He stepped back. "Your choice, your life. But you need to make it now." 3 days passed. Mira mapped the apartment the way she used to map every room Victor put her in. Exit points, blind spots, what could be moved and what was fixed. Old habit, survival architecture. The gym on the 40th floor was empty at 6 in the morning when Thomas took her. The building library on the 38th floor had every book she had ever put on a list and forgotten about. Food arrived through an app. Clothes, entertainment, anything she typed into the phone appeared within hours, except contact with the outside world. That had simply stopped being available. She tried calling Anna once. The line rang into nothing. No voicemail, no response. Like the number had been quietly removed from the world. "I had to close off the lines he might use to find you," Luca explained that evening. He arrived and loosened his tie, and Mira noticed for the first time that he looked tired. Actually tired, underneath the control. Temporary, until the situation is resolved. "What is the current situation? They are refusing to accept that the contract is void." He moved to the bar, poured 2 fingers of whiskey, drank it in a single motion. "They want to verify your status in person. See that you are protected. Confirm no one can touch you." "What kind of verification?" "They want to meet. Harbor District. Tonight." "Let me come." Mira said it before she had fully decided to say it. "No. It is my life they are negotiating over. I should be in that room." "Exactly." He set the glass down. "It is your life, which means you do not walk it into a harbor warehouse in front of men who measure human beings in currency. You do not look them in the eye and expect to find something human looking back." He pulled back his jacket, showing the holster at his hip, then reached down and lifted his trouser leg slightly, revealing the ankle holster beneath. "I will handle this. You stay here." That night, Mira lay in the dark and thought about men in a waterfront building deciding her future. Thought about Victor, who had sold her name like it was his to sell. Thought about Luca, who had bought her out of that transaction and called it protection, and somehow still made her feel more like a person than Victor ever had. At 3 in the morning, she made a decision. When Luca left the following evening, she waited exactly 10 minutes. Then she searched the apartment. It took her 25 minutes to find the backup phone in the desk drawer of his office. Password protected, but with a tracking application still running in the background. A blue dot moving south through the city toward the waterfront. The rideshare driver did not ask questions. She paid cash from money she had found in the kitchen drawer. Left there, she suspected. Because Luca assumed she would not dare use it. He had not yet understood who he was dealing with. The warehouse was exactly what the harbor district promised. Rust and broken glass and salt water and decay. She positioned herself behind a shipping container with a direct sightline to the entrance. 3 vehicles, 6 men visible, Thomas standing near the door with one hand resting at his hip, and Luca walking through the entrance like he was attending a quarterly review. She moved closer, close enough that voices carried through the open structure. "Morrow." The voice was rough, cigarette-worn. "You have some nerve walking in here on our time. I was in the neighborhood." Luca sounded entirely bored. "You wanted verification. I am here to provide it. The contract with Victor Hale is void. Mira Reeves is under permanent protection. His debt is settled. We are finished." "See," a younger voice cut in, hungrier than the first. Had Derek made us certain promises about that particular asset? Revenue projections. You cannot just buy your way out of someone else's business arrangement. Your business arrangement involves trafficking a human being. Luca's voice dropped to something that made the air feel different. "I can absolutely buy my way out of that." Big words for a man standing in our space. "Do you think this is your space?" Something shifted in the quality of his silence. "Because you pay rent to someone who does not ask questions, you believe this belongs to you? Let me explain something about territory." Mira risked looking around the container edge. Luca was unbuttoning his jacket. 1 button, 2, 3, letting it fall open just enough that the holster was visible. Not reaching for it, not drawing it, just letting it be seen. The warehouse went completely quiet. You have 48 hours to formally accept the settlement, he said into that silence. And after that, the situation becomes expensive for everyone involved, and I promise you my rates are not something your operation survives. One of the men shifted. His hand moved toward his waistband. Thomas moved faster. His own weapon appeared. The man went completely still. Wise, Luca said. Gentlemen, we will speak in 2 days. He turned to leave, and Mira's foot caught on something. A metal pipe, half buried in gravel, rusted and invisible in the dark. It scraped across the concrete floor with a sound like a door being forced open. Every head in the warehouse turned toward the container. Luca's eyes found hers across the distance. 1 second. Just one. His control slipped. She saw fury. She saw something that looked like fear for her specifically. She saw something underneath both of those things that she would think about later when she had space to be honest with herself. Then all of it was gone, replaced by the cold efficiency she had come to recognize as his public face. We are done here. And he said it to the men without looking at them, turned and walked directly toward her position, Thomas falling into step behind him. His hand closed around her arm. Firm, not rough. And he moved her toward the SUV, opened the door, waited until she was inside. He slid in beside her. Thomas drove. 5 minutes of silence. 10. Mira counted the streetlights, counted her own heartbeats, counted anything that was not the heat radiating off him in the seat beside her. Do you understand what you just did? He said it quietly. The quietness was worse than volume would have been. I needed to see it. I needed to understand what you were walking into on my behalf. Your only responsibility tonight was to remain where I put you. He turned to look at her, and his eyes were completely flat. If those men had gotten a clear look at your face, I would have had to kill every person in that building, tonight, right there. And that would have started a war between every organization operating in this city, a war with a body count, a war that ends with me in a cell or in the ground, all of it. Because you could not stay in one place for 3 hours. Mira's throat closed. You thought this was the kind of story where the woman walks into danger and courage carries the day. He leaned closer. It is not that story. You do not get to gamble with your life. It is not yours to gamble. It belongs to me to protect, and I will do that even if protecting you means never letting you leave that apartment again. Do you hear me? Yes. Say it properly. I hear you. He sat back, the jaw tight, his hands flat on his thighs. When we get home, he said, we will discuss what comes next. But when they got back to the penthouse, Luca stood at the window for a long time without speaking. Mira sat on the sofa and waited. Victor contacted them again this afternoon, he said finally, while I was at the warehouse. He offered to forgive other debts they hold in exchange for reinstating the original contract. He told them the contract should still be valid because you were rightfully his. Mira felt something crack open in her chest, like a hairline fracture that had been there for a while finally giving way. He will not stop, will he? Not on his own, not while he believes he is owed something. Luca turned from the window. His ego cannot absorb the loss. He needs to win more than he needs anything else. So what happens? He looked at her steadily. That depends on what you can live with. And ending this permanently means methods that are not legal and not clean. It means I cross lines that do not uncross. And it means you know I crossed them. His expression was completely open in a way it had not been before. Not warm, but honest. So before I do anything, I need to know. How far am I allowed to go? Mira thought about Victor's hands in her hair on that rooftop. Thought about 2 years of learning to move quietly through rooms so she would not become the thing that set him off. Thought about the scar at her collarbone and all the other marks that did not show on skin. As far as you need to, she said. Just make sure I never have to be in the same room as him again. Luca nodded once. Then he left. And she did not see him for 2 days. Thomas brought meals, checked the apartment, said nothing about where Luca had gone or what he was doing. The not knowing was its own kind of weight. Mira imagined things she did not want to imagine. And imagined Luca with blood on his hands and that expression on his face that revealed nothing. Imagined Victor, imagined worse. On the 3rd morning, her phone buzzed, not the burner. The phone Luca had given her, LM, St. Edmund's Hospital, Ward 6, Room 18, when you are ready. She called Thomas without thinking twice. Room 18 was in the high dependency unit. Through the observation window, Mira could see Victor, alive, both arms in casts, his face so swollen she almost did not recognize him. Machines connected to him at several points, their rhythms steady and indifferent. What happened to him? she asked the nurse at the station. Road accident. That is what the incident report says. She said it without inflection. Funnily enough, his vehicle showed no damage. She looked up from the desk. Someone also delivered a package of evidence to the district station. Financial fraud, coercive control, witness interference, extortion. The CPS is already reviewing for charges. And she looked through the window at Victor with the expression of someone who has long since used up their professional sympathy for certain types of patients. Some people simply run out of good fortune eventually. Mira stood at the window for a long time. She waited to feel something. Satisfaction, guilt, pity, relief. What arrived was quieter than all of those. A settling. The specific stillness of a door that has finally been closed properly after years of banging in the wind. Her phone buzzed. LM, penthouse, when you are ready. Luca was at the window when she arrived, still in the previous day's clothes. The control was intact, but underneath it exhaustion had made itself visible in ways that his face did not usually allow. He is alive, Luca said without turning. More than he deserves. But he will spend the next 20 years in a cell, and the Port District operators have accepted that as a satisfactory resolution. He turned. You are free. The contract is void. No one is looking for you. What did you do? Nothing you need the specific details of. She waited. He crossed the room and stopped in front of her, close enough for her to see the tiredness properly now. I am offering you 2 things. First option, a new identity, new city, enough money to build a life that Victor and everyone connected to him will never find. You walk out of here tonight and you simply become someone else somewhere else. He paused. Second option, you stay. Not because you have to, not because a contract says so, because you choose to. He looked uncertain, genuinely uncertain. She had not seen that on him before, and it changed his face entirely. I am not practiced at this, at caring about a specific person rather than just the function of keeping them alive. I have spent a long time being very good at the mechanics of protection and very poor at the part that comes after. But you, he stopped, started, that you are brave in ways that have nothing to do with the absence of fear. You are strong in ways I have not encountered before, and I want you safe. Not because a contract requires it, because I want it. Mira's heart was loud in her own ears. What does staying look like? She asked it honestly. Walk me through it. I do not know. He said it without flinching. I have never done this before. Never been in this position where keeping someone alive stopped being the whole point and became only the beginning of the point. He reached up slowly and his fingers barely grazed her cheek. So careful, so tentative, like someone learning the weight of something fragile. But I want to learn it, if you will let me. Mira stood in the middle of that penthouse and thought about the woman who had arrived here terrified and furious 4 days ago. Thought about the woman who had followed a tracking dot to a harbor warehouse because she refused to be kept safely ignorant of her own life. Thought about Luca, who had bought her freedom with money and methods and then stood in front of her and admitted he did not know what came next. I am willing, she said. His arms came around her, careful, measured, like he was accounting for the possibility that she might pull back. Mira did not pull back. She leaned in. She let herself be held for the first time in longer than she could calculate. Let herself feel the specific quality of safe that comes not from the absence of danger, but from the presence of someone who has decided you matter. Thank you, she said against his shoulder. For what? For giving me the choice even when you did not have to. His arms tightened. You always had it. I just needed you to understand every option before you used it. 3 weeks later, Mira stood at the window of the penthouse in a black dress that fit her like a statement. The apartment was full of people. Men in expensive suits, women with the kind of eyes that calculate everything and reveal nothing, and the people who operated in the spaces between official and unofficial, and called it simply business. He had explained it that morning. They need to see you, need to understand that you are not hidden here out of obligation, that you are here by choice, that you are choosing to be. And what are you? She had asked. He had smiled, the real one, the rare one, choosing to be yours. Now he stood beside her with his hand at the small of her back, introducing her to people whose names she would not remember. Politicians, investors, people who built empires in shadows and attended charity galas on weekends. Mira Reeves, Luca said to a man with a smile that did not reach his eyes. under my protection, permanently and by choice. The man looked between them, and understanding moved across his face. Of course, he nodded. My congratulations to you both. As he moved away, Mira leaned close. They all understand what that means, what you are, what you do. They understand that I protect what is mine. Yet he said it quietly. That is sufficient. Am I yours? He turned to look at her, and something moved in his expression that she had not seen there before. Something certain and warm and decided. Are you asking because you are worried about the answer, or because you want to hear me say it? Both. You are mine, he said, and I am yours, for as long as you will have me. Mira felt the weight of every eye in the room, felt the specific density of attention from people who could dismantle her life with a single phone call. She did not care. Luca was looking at her the way he had looked at that rooftop from across a crowd, like she was already the only person who mattered in the space. Kiss me, she said. He did. The party moved around them. Music and conversation and quiet transactions in corners. And Mira stood in the middle of it, feeling entirely removed from all of it in the best possible way. Later, when the last guest had gone, they stood together on the balcony. The city below was all lights and movement, indifferent and enormous, and entirely unaware of what had happened 42 floors above it. She asked the question that had been waiting since the night they met. Am I free, or am I yours? She asked it gently. Not as an accusation, as an actual question she needed the actual answer to. Luca was quiet for a long moment. He looked at the city, then he looked at her. You are free, he said. Free to leave, free to stay, free to be angry at me for the things I have done to keep you alive, free to choose me despite all of them. The door has never been locked. I never locked it. You simply needed time inside it to understand that you could open it whenever you wanted to. Mira looked at their hands, looked at the city, looked at this man who had arrived between her and something terrible on a rooftop and had not left since. I am not leaving, she said. I know. How? Because you are not running, you are standing. He looked at her steadily. That is different. That has always been different. She kissed him then, long and slow and full of every decision she had made to get here. Full of 2 years she was putting down, full of the woman she had been before Victor and the woman she had become after Luca. When they finally separated, he kept his forehead against hers. I need to tell you something about what happened to Victor. I do not need the details. Yes, you do, because you need to understand exactly who you are choosing. He pulled back slightly and looked at her directly. I broke both his arms. I made it look like an accident because that was cleaner. But it was not an accident. I wanted him to know what it felt like to be trapped in a body that would not protect him, to be completely powerless in a situation he could not talk or buy or threaten his way out of. He paused. The evidence I sent to the police. I had it for weeks before I sent it. I could have sent it the day I found it. Victor would have been arrested earlier. You would have been safer sooner. But I waited, because I wanted him to believe he had won first. I wanted him to feel the specific safety of a man who thinks he has gotten away with everything. And then I wanted to take that away from him completely. Mira absorbed it, the violence of it, the calculated patience of it. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to know who you are standing next to. I am not a good man, Mira. I am effective. I am loyal to the people I protect. But I am not good in the way the word usually means. And if anyone threatens you again, anyone, I will not pause to be good. I will just act. I am telling you that now so you cannot say later that you did not know. She should be frightened. She was aware that she should be frightened. Good, she said. He blinked. Something she had not seen before crossed his face. Good? You spent 2 years watching me live with a man who hurt me and called it love. You watched me run for 4 months alone. You bought a contract with my name on it and then spent every hour since making sure I understood I could tear it up. She held his face in her hands. You have done violent things. Yes. But you have never once made me feel small. You have never lied to me. You have never let me doubt for a single moment that you would keep me safe. So yes. Good. I am glad you are the kind of man who destroys people who deserve destroying. Something cracked open in his expression. Not the professional fracture she had seen in the warehouse. Something deeper, something that had been held very carefully for a long time and was only now being put down. You are extraordinary, he said. I am practical. You are extraordinary, he said again, and you are mine, and I am going to spend a very long time proving I am worth that. She pulled him back toward the lights of the penthouse, toward whatever came next. Behind them, the city stretched out vast and ongoing, full of people running from things and toward things and standing still trying to decide. But up here on the 42nd floor, Mira Reeves had stopped running. She had turned around. She had chosen the cage that was never locked, the protection that came with honesty, the man who had done terrible things in service of keeping her whole. And for the first time in longer than she could accurately remember, she felt like herself. I need to stop here for a moment, because what Mira survived, Victor's hands, the contract with her name on it, running alone for 4 months with no one she could trust, that is not just a dramatic story. That is what it looks like when a woman has been told so many times that she is someone else's property, that she has to relearn what her own choices feel like. And what Luca carried, the methods, the violence, the parts of himself he closed off to stay effective. That is what it looks like when a person spends so long protecting everyone else that they forget they are allowed to want something for themselves. Two people who existed in the gray spaces between safety and danger, and somehow they found each other there. Now I need you to answer something before you go. Did Mira make the right choice staying? Was Luca right to tell her everything at the end, or should some things stay in the dark? And which moment hit you hardest? The rooftop, the warehouse, or the balcony at the end? Leave your answer in the comments. If this story found you today, share it with someone who needs it. Someone who has been made to feel like they are someone else's to decide about. Someone who is still trying to remember what their own choices feel like. Like this video if this story was worth your time. Subscribe to Afro-Korean Chronicles because more stories are coming and none of them play it safe. I am your host. Thank you for being here. I will see you in the next one.